Connect Forth, the radio forum for students.
Hello, and welcome to Connect Forth Radio. I'm your host, Mark Wallace, and today I'll be talking about... Oh, come on, seriously, we just started. Well, may as well get on with it. Some things can just annoy us, and those sounds are a prime example. But why? Why do we get annoyed? Does annoyance serve a purpose, or is it just a lack of patience? I've done a little research into this, and I think annoyances can be split up into three kind of neat categories. Physical unpleasantness, unexpectedness or unpredictability, and if something breaks your societal beliefs. And recently I had the pleasure of interviewing a good friend of mine, Adam Wilson, about his annoyances and his opinions on them. Now, I wanted the most authentic answers I could get, so I gave Adam a call at 7 AM on a morning I knew he'd been drinking the night before. Sorry Adam, but we gotta make a show. Now, Adam has worked as a sound engineer for multiple years, and more specifically what that means is he spends most of his working day crafting and listening to car engine noises. It was for this reason it was pretty safe to think he was immune to auditory annoyances, but I had to find out what really got to him. Take a listen to his thoughts.
The whole concept of an annoyance is probably something that you let kind of like wear on you, eat at your psyche and say that you're spending more time thinking about it than you would probably say that it's worth. You wouldn't say that, having something really bad happen to you and then be like, yeah, it was just kind of an annoyance. It's like, no, that's like bad. Like I'm giving it as much attention as it deserves.
Annoyances are very minor by their nature.
Yeah, there's kind of an insinuation that by saying something is annoying is that it's like, it's not really that big a problem, but I'm letting it bother me more than it's a problem, right?
It goes on with repetition as well, I think. That's a sort of main
right,
thing
yeah,
about annoyance.
there's the word kind of implies that it's not a one-time thing. You wouldn't say, like, I'm really annoyed by this thing that's never going to happen again. It's kind of like...
Maybe you wouldn't. I'm a very irritable person, personally.
I really don't like bright light. I prefer to be in dark spaces, dark environments.
So you're a bit of a troglodyte, are you? A cave-dwelling animal.
I'm not gonna answer that. I think we'll just say that I enjoy the mood being set correctly, and that bright direct lights are just an annoyance. I think
like this is just hung over Adam coming out now. You've been out drinking last night, and you've just you're letting the hangover state influence you.
There may be a correlation to why that's what I thought of, but no, but the reason I bring that one up particularly is that I always like being in a room that's a little bit less lit, whereas my wife absolutely loves being in really brightly lit rooms.
Jen, how is Jen anyway? She's doing
asleep. Well. She's probably going to be very, very groggy in the morning. We just had a lot of guests over last night.
Right, little house party. Really now, that opens a very interesting line of discussion, though, because I bet some of those guests. They do anything? Maybe got on your nerves, frustrated you?
Oh man, now you're asking me to call out my friends. One of my friends, he whenever he opens an aluminum can, whether it's a soda, a beer, or whatever, he does this thing where he flicks the top of it with his finger before popping the cap because he somehow thinks that will help. Make it easier?
Yeah, that's the sort of common misconception. You tap the can and it's it's not going to fizz over, right?
Yeah, and I saw him do this once, and I asked him to explain it, and he explained it to me, and I was like, well, clearly that makes no sense whatsoever. And he seemed to be in agreement, and I've watched him now for 7 years flick every can he ever opens, and I've never said this to him. We've never again had that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, in his world, this is a one-time thing, and he just has no clue that this has been on my mind. Like, oh, he's picking up a can. Here it comes. Okay, he's going to do it. I'm thinking, like, are other people going to see this? And then he flicks it, and I'm just like, how is this still a thing?
The noise just echoes in the back of your brain every time. It just hits you deep.
Like, I will write him a novel in 20 years chronicling his habits, and he will be like, I didn't know he could have just said something. Why didn't he just tell me, like, maybe one more time? I don't.
You've just made a big deal about it. But it's one of those things where I think you're right. If it was just the first time, no problem, you know? Oh, he taps cans, whatever. But the more it happens, especially once you've clocked in on it, it's impossible to forget about.
And I think that's one of those things that about annoyances, right? Is that we make them up to be bigger deals than they are, but it's also incredibly personal. Like, you can be really surprised when somebody tells you something annoys them, because it's not often that we share our annoyances when they're little. We usually sit on them.
Now, I do think he's right with that final thought. It can be quite a personal thing to share what annoys us. So, before I join Adam again later to find out the rest of his ideas about annoyance, how about we try it out? I'll start. Now, I'm quite a fast walker, and I know that annoys some of my friends if they're walking beside me. I can understand that perfectly well. But what I can understand is the opposite. These sloth-paced strollers with seemingly nowhere to be. And it's not just about speed, it's about the lack of awareness, really. Then again, the organisation skills they must possess to block every single possible avenue of overtaking them is actually quite impressive. But regardless, I've compiled some of the annoyances of my colleagues. Let's find out what they find annoying.
I'm annoyed by the sound of a magpie which sits on my bedroom window ledge at 5 AM and it makes it sound like a machine gun.
What annoys me is people that are rude to waiters, and even people that click their fingers when they want to get attention, because I think that's just the rudest thing you can do.
What really annoys me is, like, I've got these flatmates who just keep banging the doors at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm just trying to get some sleep, and it just really annoys me.
What I find annoying is my roommate screaming in the night.
There are not too many things that annoy me, but one of them is maybe the fact that some musical artists make their musical art as a supermarket products.
Wow, not much love for the roommates in that group, eh? But at least now we've learned a bit more about what annoys people. So, what about why? For that, I spoke to Adam a bit more to gather his opinion on the matter. Do you think actual annoyances, do you think they have any important role in our lives? Do you think it should influence anyone in any way?
Yeah, so with anything that I try to think about for these like kind of common human behaviors, I try to draw like an evolutionary correlation to like why does our brain function that way. Anytime we have these patterns that you can see, it would be extremely odd if any person didn't have them. It's clear that that's part of kind of like the hard wiring in the way that our brains are designed to function. And you know, our brains were never designed to like, oh, we definitely want to be annoyed by things. It's always has to be a thing where the reason why we perform that task is that has to provide us some kind of evolutionary benefit in order to justify its existence. And I do think that if you think about when something's eating at you and you're like, oh, I really want to fix this, it's kind of like a way of your brain motivating you to address something that might be in your environment that needs to be corrected. Take the complexity of society out of it and just think about, like, if you were trying to survive, what would annoy you? Imagine it's like, okay, I live in a spot where every time I come back, I have to find new wood because the wood to make my fire is damp. Right? It's just, I get so annoyed by the water getting towards my wood. So you take a bunch of leaves and you pile them up so that there's a shield over your wood to keep it dry. It's like, I think an annoyance is like this mechanism that's saying, this is a problem to us. You should think about addressing it, but without putting you into a panic, a survival, like fight or flight mode of like, oh my God, you got to deal with this right now. Okay. It's kind of a delicate way of being like, you know, if you can, this is something that might be good to deal with.
Yeah, but it's quite a minor emotion, but you know, it's created by things that you your brain perhaps would like to solve for your overall benefit without, just stabbing you in the heart with adrenaline and saying, deal with this now.
A dog barks. Your heart rate spikes.
Heart rate spikes.
Oh,
You just crouch down and sprint towards the dog trying to hide.
There's probably somebody.
Overall, some very interesting thoughts there from Adam, and it's definitely something I'm going to continue to think on. But how much closer have we come to fully understanding this ever-present emotion? Probably nowhere near, but it was quite fun to complain, eh? Thanks for listening.
Connect Forth, the radio forum for students.